Uh, I think, there's sort of three parts to it. One is, of course, instinct, and you have to learn to trust your instinct, and that only comes by seeing things and really being honest with yourself about what you like, what you don't like. Because art is subjective. The things we collect speak to us, and there's a subjectiveness to them. I think the second is learning. It's really, really important to be able to contextualize things. Anything that you do, really, and this is not just about art, it's about life, that learning and understanding and constantly being able to refresh your own bank of understanding is what will make you, understand good from bad, mediocre from brilliant, passionate from not. So I think learning is super important. Listening to your own self, developing your own eye, trusting your instinct is a very important thing. And I think the third thing, which is, we are blessed to have that, is it's wonderful when you have a friend or a partner in the journey where you collect together, because what happens is the other person often brings a very interesting and different perspective. So I think I would say these are the three things. And people feel that if they're collecting something, they need to do it in isolation. But I think that's not true. Because when you go with a friend, you go with a partner, you go with someone who sees something differently from you, that actually just helps you understand something a lot better, a lot better. So I would say these three things. I don't know, Paul, do you feel?
I think for me, a lot of that, for sure, but it's also grounded to some extent in the reason for which you're collecting, right? For example, in some of the genres that I started off with, you could always collect because something was historic. You could collect because something was beautiful and aesthetic. You could collect something because it was rare. You could collect because it was emotional and nostalgic, and all of that, right? And in all of those categories, the concept of what is beautiful and what is brilliant is defined by what you're driven by. So
Very
that's
true.
one part. The second part, of course, is, exactly as Pavitra said, there are enough experts out there who preceded you. It's very rare that you're starting off on a journey which is completely unique and never before attempted, right? So reference points are those, who can be accessed. There are many societies, so whether it is the fine art, if it is indigenous art, if it is coins, if it is maps, there are enough experts out there, and a lot of them, are happy to help with giving you insights, grading stuff for you, giving, building and developing your eye to find what is nice and what is not so nice, what is brilliant, what is mediocre, etc. So I think yes, you should be driven by what is important, and of course, in certain categories, you certainly instinctively have a feel for what has attracted you. And most importantly, I guess you take the help of guides and reference people or points or literature, what have you.
Yeah, and I think size does not matter and price does not matter. I mean, the most expensive thing may not necessarily be, the finest example of something. And the largest, biggest, most imposing piece may also not be that. Sometimes you walk into an artist show and the smallest, I remember walking into a show by N.S. Harsha very recently, and there were lots of stunning artworks. It's an artist he's an artist we both really respond to and admire. But for me, the most perfect painting in that was a tiny painting. It was about 9 inches by 9 inches. It was just a little chair, but it was perfect. It just had the color, the form, the balance, what it evoked was perfect. So I think that it's a misnomer that go for size or go for price. Um, it's just so subjective. And I think that's why the learning is important. That's why following experts looking at it. And today you know you have Google Arts and Culture, you have Instagram, you have blogs, you have people doing, you know, vlogs, you have podcasts. There's so many ways in which to learn. And I would say yes, don't really buy something unless you know something about its provenance or what it is and why. Not that you know that should anyway make you buy or not buy. It's just that you will enjoy it so much more. That if you know a little bit more about it, the enjoyment that comes from it will just be multiplied.
And I think, one more thing which and that's a learning, because of the many years one has been, walking this path. The belief that all things great have preceded you is not necessarily correct, you know.
Very
So
true.
there's a lot of stuff that can go with you and grow with you parallelly. So there are a lot of young artists there. For example, if you go to the Kochi Biennale, there's a whole section, usually with more than 100 artists of young, 20 somethings who themselves are starting this journey. And of course, some of them will become great with the passage of time. And if you participate in that very actively, I'm sure you will catch some of those people as you go along, and your journey will be relatively cost effective. Let's put it that way. And it's fascinating to also do that because you see artists evolve. And, trying to, chase someone who's already famous, who's already hugely expensive. Very often people have asked me, is this worth the investment and all that? No, I don't know. I never buy with the belief that someday I'll be selling this. I buy because I find something instinctively attractive about it in the here and now. And this insight has come over the years. So it's not necessarily the way I started, but to anyone, if I have to recommend something, I'd say start. If you are a 20 something, start looking around to the world of art, for example, and pull and be attracted to those 20 somethings who are, putting out fantastic stuff. And there are so many interesting clusters in India, whether it is, the Kochi Biennale, or it is, the Baroda School, or, Hyderabad, or Tamil Nadu, Bengal, there are people who are doing some amazing stuff, and very young. And they'd love a followership starting today. It's not necessarily that they have to wait till they are senior and they are yellow in the tooth, but you can do that straight away. Run your journey parallel to the age that is yours.
Subscribe to Sarmaya and be a part of the stories and conversations around art, history, and culture.